Alright, we've all seen the goggle-plexian amount of videos about the MCU has died and all the reasons why. And we've also seen the same amount of videos explaining what the MCU could do to correct their mistakes from the opinions of the fans. So I thought of doing something a bit different. Since it's a start of a new year, I'm going to go full Baba Vanga mode and attempt to predict what the MCU will do to save itself in the next few years. What exactly do I mean by that, you might be asking? Well, I'm looking at the patterns the MCU has taken before, and seeing what they are already doing to course correct their mistakes. And I'm going to use that to predict what the next saga will look like after the Multiverse Saga comes to its conclusion with Secret Wars. So to be even more clear, none of this is my opinion on what I believe Marvel should do, because my opinions would be different. But rather what I wholeheartedly believe is Marvel's next big moves for the next saga starting in 2028. Okay, I hope that all makes sense because we're getting straight into it. Remember this video in the next 5 years. But before we even get to the next saga, we have to take a quick look at how our current one will end. As we know, the Multiverse Saga will come to its conclusion with Avengers Secret Wars. And I believe the film will end similar to how the 2015 Secret Wars comic did, which merged the Ultimate Universe and the main 616 universe together. And in the case of the MCU, that would be the Fox X-Men universe and the Fantastic Four First Steps universe with Pedro Pascal, giving them an easy way to rewrite the MCU's history, where they had mutants and the Fantastic Four around the whole time since the beginning. Personally, I absolutely hate this idea of doing this reboot, even though it seems to be more of a soft reboot, keeping what we already know of the MCU, but adding the alternate history sprinkled in there. But I digress. After Secret Wars wraps up and everything is slightly rebooted, we will have a bit of an epilogue with a third Doctor Strange movie and maybe one Disney Plus show showing the after effects of everything we have witnessed in Secret Wars. Similar to how Far From Home and Falcon and the Winter Soldier dealt with the aftermath of Endgame and how the world was affected by it. To go back to the mutants real quick, they're gonna be a big part of this saga. Actually, the most important aspect of this saga, because this next saga is going to be the Mutant Saga. And Phase 7 will be all about forming the X-Men, for I believe that Charles will be around with his X-Mansion, but the full X-Men roster would not be completed when we first see them in this phase. So, I believe that there will be 5 characters that will be working together to help form the X-Men. Those being Charles Xavier, Doctor Strange, Wolverine, Magneto, and a 4th one that I'll get into in a second. But I already hear you, Magneto, what is he doing here? And to that, I have a feeling Marvel will want to do something extremely different with Magneto, as he will not be an antagonist. Let's be honest, Charles and Eric are best friends, and everyone's favorite scenes with them are not when they're against each other, but when they're actually working together for the greater good, and simply just sitting down and having a game of chess and talking about life. I think Marvel would want to lean into that, and they already have a bit with X-Men 97, and people have responded well to that. So Magneto will 100% be a co-founder of the X-Men, like we've seen before, but this time, he'll actually be sticking around to help. But of course, those won't be the only characters we have. For the main characters of the saga we will be following the most, it will be the already mentioned Charles Xavier, Magneto, Wolverine, and Doctor Strange. But we will also have Cyclops, Jean Grey, Reed Richards, Thor, Miss Marvel, Daredevil, Sam Wilson's Captain America, and the 5th mystery character to help aid Charles and Eric in their quest to guide mutant kind. The one and only Wanda Maximoff. That's right, Wanda is not dead, and let's be real, none of us believe that she was. I think there's 2 reasons Marvel decided to kill off the character. One, to give Olsen some time to do other smaller projects and then come back when the time felt right. And 2, if she wanted to actually be retired from Marvel, she can have a proper exit. With all that said, she is definitely going to come back in Secret Wars, and from there on she will be playing one of the most crucial parts in the Mutant Saga. But more on that later. Now that we know what this saga will mainly be about, I'd like to shift over to how Marvel will be handling concerns of having too much content and having every plot point surround the end of the world or the end of the universe or even the multiverse. I believe we will see a significant decrease in projects in Phase 7 and probably even in Phase 6 as well, with them doing no more than 2 shows a year that will have smaller budgets with longer seasons and have a grounded tone. And when it comes to film, I don't think we'll see more than 3 a year. And in regards to tone and the types of stories we will be seeing, like I just said, I think we're going to be seeing a huge scaling back on the world-ending tone, and we might even be getting less quippy dialogue and more serious narratives to go along with it. We'll see that Doctor Strange, Charles, and Wanda will be heading the more fantastical and cosmic stories, while Daredevil with the reintroduced Defenders, Ms. Marvel, Moon Knight, and Sam Wilson Captain America will be pushing the grounded stories. I also believe that overall we will be getting more genre-based films, as in not just dramedies or action sci-fi films. More like horror, thriller, espionage, crime, westerns, etc., things like that. Along with more genre projects, we will be seeing an increase in R-rated films and series. This is a small tangent, but I couldn't think of anywhere else to put it. But I don't think our main Avengers will be recast, but I do think we'll see some familiar actors play other characters. So here comes Chris Evans as Squirrel Girl. That was a horrible joke. But speaking of familiar faces, I'm sure we are going to get a great deal of sequels to characters we've already gotten in the Multiverse Saga and the Infinity Saga through film and TV. These sequels will be Guardians 4, Thor 5, a second Sam Wilson Captain America movie, but a team up with another character. A Ms. Marvel movie, Shang-Chi, Fantastic Four, Yelena-led Black Widow movie or show, of course another Black Panther since it's already been confirmed, Hawkeye Season 2, I'm 50-50 on a Moon Knight Season 2 happening, but I'm 100% confident he will show up in other projects. At least another 2 seasons of Daredevil, a Jessica Jones revival, and a Heroes for Hire show. And screw it, we might even get something with Punisher. Now, you're probably noticing a very substantial character missing from this roster, and so far I haven't even brought them up at all in this video yet. That of course being Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Well, that's because I have a feeling we won't be seeing much of him in this saga. Yes, it is believed that Tom would be returning for not only 2 more Avengers film and another solo venture, but another 2 after that, doing essentially a second trilogy. But the truth is, no official reports from the major trades, that being The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, The Wrap, sources like that, not your average Twitter scooper, have said that there will be one. With that said, I do believe that's the goal with Tom's Spidey. But as we all know, Sony owns the rights to the Spider-Man films, and they basically rent him out to Marvel. But the thing is, they still have a heavy say on what goes on in his films. And that has led to creative disagreements between them, and it seems we're going through another one of those disagreements, because it doesn't look like Marvel and Sony are on the same page when it comes to Spider-Man 4. And after close to 10 years of getting pulled between 2 different studios, Tom might be fed up. And as the years have passed, every year Tom talks more and more about retirement. As of the time of this recording, about 2 weeks prior, he was already talking about retiring when he has a kid, which could be coming soon. I mean, the guy is almost 30 and seems to be settling down with his boo thing. And to be completely honest, I have a sneaking little suspicion that Spider-Man 4 won't be the kind of movie fans have been wanting following No Way Home's ending, which he has talked about being nervous to come back and not give the fans a follow-up that he feels like they deserve. And if it turns out to disappoint people after such a high with No Way Home, then Tom on a creative level might just run out of gas in the tank when it comes to portraying Peter Parker, a character come time Doomsday releases he'd be playing for a decade. But I do think he'll come back for a Spider-Man 5 or even 6 on one condition. The scripts would have to blow his mind and challenge him as an actor and take the character to some seriously harsh emotional depths. Because I think Tom is one of the best actors of his generation, and you guys are probably laughing at me, but that's because he hasn't had enough projects to truly showcase his range, which I always see being held back, but I see that it's there just waiting to burst out. And if there truly is a story where they allow his Peter to have more of an edge, like Stan's original portrayal of the character, while giving him a narrative that brings true, realistic emotional stakes, and can connect to an audience on a human level more than a fun action adventure, then I'm sure he'd come back for that. But to stick on my prediction that in this saga we won't have any Spidey movies unless something drastic changes, I believe Marvel would have to have another young lovable teenage hero to take his place, that being Miss Marvel. Not since Holland's debut in Civil War have people absolutely adored a portrayal of a new hero introduced into the MCU, and yes, I know people have dogged on Holland since then. But to go back to Iman Vellani's Miss Marvel, she has truly become such a standout and a truly incredible addition to the MCU's roster. And I believe she will be their answer to a lack of Spider-Man, especially since they don't have to share that character with another studio. So that means they can have her in as many projects that Iman would want to be in and will grow to be one of the main faces of the mutant saga. Especially since Marvel has already changed her original comic book origin of her being an Inhuman and making her into a mutant. Even though we love our returning characters, we will always have to keep things fresh and new. So here are a few new heroes I believe will be popping up in this saga. Richard Rider Nova, Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, Kazar, Beta Ray Bill, Silver Surfer, Darkhawk, and Ava Elias White Tiger, with some obscure teams like Alpha Flight or Power Pack and X-Force. But of course, heroes are only as good as their villains, so here are 4 big villains we will see. Mr. Sinister, Mephisto, Annihilus, and one big bad to rule them all, Jean Grey, the Dark Phoenix. I believe the entire Mutant Saga will actually secretly be a Dark Phoenix saga. And yes, I know what you're saying, but they've already done it twice. But they also messed it up twice. And it's one of the greatest comic book storylines ever done, so I highly doubt Marvel wouldn't want to try their hand at making it work. And by having multiple films to truly build up to it over a course of multiple years, rather than half a movie a setup, then I think we'll truly have something special. Especially with the addition of Wanda, because I believe they'll use her to be a mother-like figure to Jean throughout multiple projects, and it's easy to see how these two characters would have a lot in common. And even more so with them being 2 of the MCU's most powerful characters. But to move forward, they can tell a powerful tale about someone who's lost everyone they've ever loved, including her own children. And then in a way, adopting a daughter of her own who reminds her so much of herself and learning to not only help Jean, but find peace within herself as well. Just to have to fight against her and lose yet another child, and how emotionally devastating that will be. And yes, I know her kids are kinda back, but still, even with that context, she still had to live with them essentially dying once. So I'm sure that would still keep her up at night, even if she got her kids back. Anyways, we'll get our big Avengers movie, which will most likely not be titled Avengers Dark Phoenix, but something else. Hell, it could easily be an Avengers vs. X-Men movie, where all the mutants are trying to protect Jean while the Avengers are attempting to take her down, with Wanda right there in the middle, having to choose a side. But by the end, I think Wanda will die for real, most likely in some form of self-sacrifice, and it'll be really sad and we'll all cry. The world or universe or multiverse will be saved, and the MCU will then conclude its next big saga. Thus, bringing my predictions to a close. So let's check back on this video at the end of every year starting in 2027 and see how close I've come to being right. And may the future of the MCU be a bright one.